Mhm. Thanks, Jennifer. I think one more minute and then we'll get started. No, Patricia, Mr. Vinman declined. I think we'll get started. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone throughout Florida. You are, and I want to make sure you're in the right space. This is Making Life Better for Floridians, a conversation with Angie Nixon, candidate for U.S. Senate. Fearless, fierce, a fighter for all Floridians. Thank you for being here. My name is Joy Burgess. I am a member of the statewide Indivisible Florida Task Force, and our moderator today is Genesis Robinson, the executive director of Equal Grounds, and our partnering organizations are Equal Ground, Jacksonville National Organization for Women, and One Voice Florida. So I'm going to have you change the slide, whoever's doing that. So our agenda today is I'll begin with a welcome, which we've done, and I want to tell you a little story, if you will, indulge me in terms of how we got here. We'll talk a little bit about the statewide Florida, Indivisible Florida Task Force, what our mission is, and what the goal of this program is, which is to hear from the candidate who is here. We will be talking about our members and introducing you to that, as well as our collaborating partners. We'll share you how we got the questions. And we received about 100, nearly 100 questions throughout Florida from the Indivisible chapters. And we want to thank you for taking the time to do that. The questions were amazing. Um, we'll have a conversation with Representative Angie Nixon, Executive Director of Jones Hope and Action Indivisible in Broward County. Thank you so much, guys. Next slide. So let me begin actually by sharing the story in terms of how we got here. One of the things we did, we decided to do through the SWIFT's statewide Indivisible Florida Task Force, is to do a candidate forum with both candidates running for at least the highest office for this year in the state of Florida, U.S. Senate. And what I wanted to do, because it was my responsibility to kind of get the date, was to get some dates from Miss Nixon and get some dates from Mr. Venman and kind of try to see if we can align the dates. I went to Angie Nixon first because I live in Duval County where she is. And she said very graciously, no, don't worry about me. Get the dates from Mr. Vinman and his campaign first, and I will accommodate that. It's going to be easier. And I was very grateful for that. And so for the next month and a half, That's what I tried to do. I called and I texted and I emailed and I visited Mr. Vindman when he came to Jacksonville and shared the idea, and he seemed to like it. And I touched base with his political director, and I went online as they suggested that I do to fill out an appearance form. And this was a month and a half of trying desperately to bring them to the table. This is more from a voter's perspective, because as voters, we need to see these candidates, not just in a singular way, which oftentimes that's all we see, but when they are working together to talk about the issues that we face and they are debating. That's how it helps us to make a decision. So that didn't happen. And so I just want to begin by that story. But let me tell you a little bit about the statewide Indivisible Florida Task Force. It's a statewide network of indivisible groups and members across Florida. The purpose of SWIFT, that's what we called it, is to offer connections, resources, and support to indivisible activists across Florida around progressive organizing initiatives. There are about 70 active indivisible chapters in Florida. We are in major cities and in the rural communities throughout Florida. There are approximately 20,000 indivisible members in Florida, and that's a strong voting group. And I would caution legislators to not take us for granted. And we hold monthly SWIFT meetings virtually, the fourth Tuesday, 5:30 to 7. Everyone is welcome. And we also have our internal SWIFT steering committee that meets on the second Monday of every month to talk about the issues and how can we better help our indivisible groups deal with some of the issues that we face. Next slide, please. And so here we are, the SWIP Task Force comprised of myself, Joy Burgess. I am from Duval County. We have Phil Stone from Pinellas County, Jyoti Parmar, one of our presenters tonight from Alachua County, and Heather Thornton, who is our senior regional organizer that lives in Texas, but is also responsible for Texas and Florida. I just want to recognize our collaborating partners, Kim Elmore from the Jacksonville National Organization for Women, Genesis Robinson, we've already discussed from Equal Ground, and Diane Williams Cox and Valerie Brandt Wilson, One Voice Florida. I have to acknowledge one of my most favorite people in the world is Carol Brady, who created the slides that you'll see tonight, and she's one of my best friends. So thank you so much, Carol, for taking the time to do that. Next slide, please. So our next slide is introducing our SWIFT members, which I have, and collaborating partners. Joe, do you want to kind of talk about how we identified the questions and what that process was like?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Joy. My name is Jyoti Parmar. My pronouns are she, they, and I am a proud member of the SWIFT Steering Committee. I am also the director of North Central Florida Indivisible. I'd like to give them my groups a shout out. There are three groups in this region: Blue Dots in Putnam County, Blue Dots in Bradford County, and North Central Florida Indivisible make a collaborative partnership that encompasses North Central Florida Indivisible. We worked, our leadership team worked very hard on getting these questions together. And I'm super excited that so many of our indivisible members statewide participated in submitting these questions. Our intent was to gather the concerns. People could either just talk about the specific areas they're most concerned about or actually submit a question. So we created a Google form, we sent it out several times, and we shared it out to partner organizations as well. And we prioritized, we asked people to submit their top priority question, their second priority, and the third priority so that we could also weigh not just what concerns they had, but which was most important to them.
Yeah.
With that, we actually took all of those questions and coalesced them. And, there were some repeats, so quite a lot of repeats, but you will see the themes as Mr. Robinson starts asking. We had As Joy said, I think about 70 different questions come up, and those have been prioritized and categorized. And I would like to give my team a shout out. Um, Jenna Preble and Amy Schwarzer and Pam Paris were worked very hard to go through those questions and categorize them in a way that made sense because there is overlap. There were overlaps in, preemption questions and the subject, the issue content. So it was fantastic, and I'm really excited at how well educated and how well informed our indivisible members are. And thank you for that. So these questions come from a wide array, not just of indivisibles, but also from different organizations. We reached out to veterans organizations and women's rights organizations. We reached out to farm workers. We reached out to
And so we want to know, you talk a little bit about your opponents sort of running from uh, engagement with voters. Could you talk about how you will remain accessible to your constituents across a large and very diverse state, shifting from a state house seat where you only represent a small portion of the state?
Yeah, for sure. And so thank you for that question. Look, y'all, I'm going to continue to do all across the state. And similar to what I'm doing right now, I'm going to show up. I have previously, as a state lawmaker, and we'll so do the same thing as a United States senator. I'm going to have in person town hall meetings. Right, we're going to do those quarterly, and we're going to rotate those throughout the area. Right, I actually want to do them every month in a different area across the state. We also have in district office hours. Right, and so sometimes my staff goes to libraries, goes to different events to answer questions. And those are the types of things that we're going to do. And also, I think what's really important is to know I am not someone that professes to know everything, but I know that I know how to surround myself with people who know things. And so I have a advisory board, a community advisory board that advises me on legislation now as a state rep, and that is something that I want to replicate when I become the next United States senator. Because I'm not someone who just wants to bring forth legislation that I think needs to be enacted. I want to get legislation that is influenced by hardworking everyday folks like the people on this call.
I love it. And you actually are doing such a great job that you kind of anticipated what my next question was going to be. This came from a member from the Oviedo area, and they wanted to know, how will you gather input from your constituents to ensure that they're shaping the decisions that you're making up in Congress?
Yeah, for sure. So just the same thing that I said. We previously, and I say we, my office, we would allow people to put in bills that they wanted me to file. Like we had and then we allowed the community to vote on some of those bills as well within the district. And so I would replicate that type of thing as well. Not necessarily that they'd have to vote on them, right? The only reason I did that was because we had a certain amount of bills that we can
Yeah,
file. And so it's different when it comes to US Senate, right? And so going around the state and having conversations with people, and they can write some bills or give us some ideas for bills. And I will more than happy, if it improves the quality of life of Floridians, I'm more than happy to file that type of legislation.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that. And thank you for giving us 43 seconds back. So we want to now shift into courts accountability. Excuse me, we want to now shift over to democracy, rule of law, and constitutional government. We received an enormous amount of questions in this category. And the area that we want to start with is a question about the power of the executive branch. So recently, there's been a lot of talk about a theory called the unitary executive theory, which essentially argues that the president should have broad control over the executive branch. Um, when you look back at the framers, right, who created the Constitution and sort of laid the groundwork for the foundation, it is clear that that was not necessarily their intent, right? The whole notion of the Declaration of Independence was to get away from a big government that was not responsive to the people. And so, do you believe that this theory reflects what the Constitution intended? And if not, what role should Congress play in restoring balance of power?
I mean, so I was a political science major at the University of Florida. And so I really do believe in three branches of government. And I believe in checks and balances, the executive, the legislative branch, and of course the judicial branches, right? But what we see right now is the fact that Donald Trump has basically um, taking over all of those, right? And that is the problem that we're in right now. And he's taken over all of those branches to because he's corrupt and because he wants to get richer, and because he wants to stay in power and control. And so I believe that it is important for a U.S. senator, the senators, to actually like push back and to check him. And to provide checks and balances. We are the ones that should be controlling the purse strings. We are the ones that should be authorizing our military like to go into war, right? Like, and that is something that is not happening right now. And too often, what we see in DC is we see strongly worded emails and we see strongly worded debates. Sometimes you have to use your United States Senate office like a pink bullhorn, right? And push back and to check Donald Trump. And that's what I would do. I would check Donald Trump.
Okay, and just right there on that note, I want to know specifically, are there any specific reforms that you think Congress can enact to rein in control?
Yeah, so I think we need to like just do what Congress isn't doing their job. That's the problem. Like they are not doing their job right now. They are not checking him. They're just rubber stamping Ashley Moody is one of them. They're rubber stamping everything that he says, right? Like they just like the different enforcement of the agencies and that type of stuff as well, right? Like people are they're just allowing him to do whatever. And so I would try to get the Congress to make sure that they impeach, and I will be one of the ones that vote to remove him because he needs to go.
Okay, thank you for that. So my next question is about voting rights. We know that Florida has become the epicenter of attacks on our democracy. In successive legislative sessions, you have witnessed as your Republican colleagues have pushed forward legislation that makes it harder for people to access the ballot box, but also for the organization to administer um, the the uh, the election work. Can you talk about what you would do in the Senate to protect voting access and strengthen our democracy?
Yeah, for sure. So I would sign on to or be a co-sponsor of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. I would also work to, after Donald Trump is gone, I want to make sure that we expand the courts because right now the court has been they've basically been bought and paid for, and so those are the main things that I would push in order to make sure that we are protecting our democracy because look, the right to vote should be absolute, right? And it is a right, it is not a privilege. And right now the MAGA Republicans are acting as though it is a privilege and it is something that they can control, and so absolutely not.
Okay, thank you for that. And then also beyond voting, what do you think ordinary citizens could do to positively influence elections and civic life?
Yeah, for sure. So you asked the right person. Again, I am a community organizer and I organize a community. I want to say that I love and adore First Lady Michelle Obama. She said, when they go low, we go high. I'm gonna tell y'all, when they go low, we need to go to no, when they go low, we need to get loud. The problem is right now that too many of us are being quiet. And so it seems like there's this overwhelming consensus of what those extremist folks on the right uh, are saying, like that everybody is okay with that. But in all actuality, they are a small subset of like the Republican Party, but they're the loudest. And so since they're the loudest and no one is really pushing back against them, like they have basically taken over and control of this country. And so I'm asking you all, like, we have to get loud. And history shows us that when you get loud, like when you're loud and you're vocal and you're upfront, um, that is going to motivate more people to join in on your cause, right? And that is going to also protect you more because you're vocal and you're loud and you're upfront. And so, what I'm asking people to do is organize, strategize, get loud, and go talk to your neighbors. And don't attack your neighbors. Like we gotta call people in with love and not out.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that. Okay, so I received a message that my audio may be a little low. I want to try and adjust something, and I want y'all to let me know if there's a difference. Is that any better? Just by a quick thumbs up or yes in the chat.
And I'm sorry, Genesis. I saw someone in the chat said this is distracting. I don't know how to take it off. Can you tell me how to take this? Like, where do I go to try to take this off? Because I
It
want
would
to
be
make
on
sure.
it would be under video. You click the up button and then you change your virtual background to none, or you can blur it.
Oh, okay, got it. I got it. I got it. Let me do that. Okay.
Okay, got it.
Is that good? Do you see it? Hold
Yes,
on.
it's much better.
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay.
Both of
So
you. That's better.
again, if
Sorry.
there's audio issues, please send another message because I want to make sure that everyone can hear the conversation. But we'll go ahead and proceed. And now we'll move into, excuse me, I want to get the timer reset. We will now move into courts accountability and oversight. And the question here uh, came out of the Central Tri-County, Florida. So that's the villages as well as the Nature Coast, indivisible. And we had two questions that were similar. And so the question was, what reforms, if any, would you support of the United States Supreme Court?
I think I stated it earlier. I think we need to expand the courts, and I also think we need to set term limits. I know that right now Supreme Court justices is a lifetime appointment, but I don't think anything should be a lifetime appointment. I believe that we need to have probably about 20 years, 25 years at the most, and set term limits for Supreme Court justices.
Okay, I love it. Thank you for that.
Also,
Also,
we need to put in place like um stronger ethical enforcement because Clarence Thomas did some real unethical things, right? And we need to make it easier for them to be removed from those seats.
no, that's good. And speaking of ethics, there was a question around Epstein. We know that Congress has failed to do anything meaningfully to bring accountability, not only to Epstein, but his accomplices and his allies. This year, we saw the state of Florida pass legislation that expanded penalties for individuals who commit sexual crimes, mainly as it relates to pornographic material. What, if anything, do you think could be done to compel Congress to act around the Epstein case?
We need to elect new congressional members and new senators so that they can actually investigate and like actually go into and prosecute and actually lock up people who have committed sexual crimes. What needs to happen?
Here we go. I agree.
And everybody that's been hiding the files needs to go to jail too.
Is that legislation that you would be willing to file?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I want to now shift over to a question that we received um, about sort of corruption regardless of the party. Um, do you believe that Congress should pursue investigations whether evidence suggests corruption or abuse of power regardless of political party? Or do you believe that sometimes those things are sort of weaponized to go after their political opponents?
I mean, what's important to note is that um, true leadership is doing the right thing, even if it's hard. Um, you have to have values regardless. And so it doesn't matter about party, right? Like there are some people in the US Senate that are Democrats that I absolutely do not support and believe they need to leave, right? And so, because they are not looking out for hardworking people. But look, like we need to hold people accountable. At the end of the day, a US Senator works for people. And we need people up there that are ethical. We need people up there that follow the rule of law. And how are we going to pass laws and we're violating them? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. So yes, everyone needs to be held accountable at all times.
Absolutely. And on the accountability front, one of the questions that I asked, and forgive me, you all, for the oversight, I failed to ask one of the most important questions of the night, under the democracy section, and that was about redistricting. Obviously, you have been on the front lines of this fight for two redistricting cycles in a row. You found yourself as one of the only legislators willing to stand up and take to the floor, to express your disapproval of the partisan takeover of our congressional maps. Could you talk a little bit about any reforms that you may have thought about that can be enacted at the federal level, given the fact that we already have the fair district amendments here in the state of Florida, and they seem to have just been ignored?
Yeah, for sure. So I just think it's important. We need to make sure that we put in legislation so that we can undo what the damage that the Supreme Court has just done. We really need to work to codify like voting rights into law, like make sure like it stands, right? And so I mean, that's just the low hanging fruit, right? But look, y'all, I know some people may say things like, I lack decorum or I lack professionalism. But I just want to say, like, what good is decorum when democracy is actively being destroyed? These people were unconstitutionally and illegally violating the laws that you all voted for. And so, did I know it was going to pass anyway? Absolutely. But I did it anyway because I needed to raise awareness about what is happening. And sometimes we have to use our offices as a megaphone, so to speak, to get the word out about all of um, the bad things, the illegal things, the unconstitutional things that the folks in power and leadership are doing, right? Like, we can't just continue to sit on the sidelines. Like, these people are actively destroying our country.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to do it all over again, I would probably have a brighter pink and bigger megaphone.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we thank you for that. We thank you for standing in the gap, on behalf of Floridians, to bring more awareness to that issue, because it's certainly important. We know that representation is the pathway through which we get all of our issues addressed. I want to go back over to courts and accountability and oversight, and I want to talk a little bit about specifics here, right? So you earlier talked about Congress not doing their job, particularly the United States Senate. But what steps specifically would you take to strengthen oversight of federal agencies and restore independent watchdogs like inspector generals?
Um, well, for one, I think it's important. Like, we have to, man. I'm just sorry. Congress just really, they just been quiet. They haven't been doing anything. And like you really got to work to organize your fellow congressional members to put forth legislation to actually make it illegal for people like Elon Musk, who should not have had any type of security clearance, to come in and doge everyone, right? So putting some teeth behind that, and also making sure that we can possibly just make them independent agencies, right? But again, like the problem is, we got to put people in office who are going to stand up when the president is violating the law, and that's just not what's happening. And so again, like right now, status quo, quiet, timid leadership is not. it is not going to help us get out of this mess that we're in. And so we need fighters that are going to go to Washington, D.C.
Thank you for that. Now you already partially addressed this earlier with one of your comments, but we had some questions from folks down in Hollywood, Florida, as well as the Indivisible Jacks Riverside, who wanted to know about impeachment. If there is a change in leadership in the House of Representatives, it is expected that articles of impeachment would likely be filed and sent over to the Senate. Do you presently believe that the current inhabitant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue has committed any impeachable offenses? And what standard would guide your decision on whether or not to convict or not?
I absolutely know for a fact, without a shadow of a doubt, that he's committed impeachable offenses. He's called for the execution of members of Congress, like that's one. He has usurped power from Congress and put us into a war of choice that actually helped pad his pockets and the pockets of many of his campaign donors, and his family and friends, right? He has what else? It's just so much. He has weaponized agencies. He has weaponized and taken over investigative agencies. Like, where does it end, right? Like, he's giving out no bid contracts to campaign donors, and all of those are like impeachable offenses. Basically, he said that this country is for sale, and I don't think it is. So he needs to be removed.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I think that's the first time, that's a pledge from a United States senatorial candidate for the state of Florida, which would be a huge change from what we presently see. I want to now shift over and give a few moments to ethics and campaign finance. Um, Citizens United has truly ruined our elections process. What do you think could be done to reduce the influence of dark money, corporations, and foreign interests in our elections?
So thank you for this question. I think it's important to know that it's not just um, foreign actors or corporate money. It's like big money in politics anyway. It's shameful the amount of money it takes to run a campaign. Number one, Citizens United needs to be overturned, but we also need to lower the amount of contributions people can get anyway. Like, number one. And the reason I would draft legislation to lower that amount to $1,000. Why would I do that? Because I believe that billionaires should not have the opportunity to influence campaigns and elections more than teachers and construction workers. So we need to lower the threshold of campaign contributions. And so that is what I would do. We got to get big money out of politics.
Yes, and we've received several questions on that. So I hope that those who asked that question had a chance to hear that reply. Now, I want to also just talk about personal ethics, right? I know this has been sort of an issue that has come up in the Florida legislature. Do you believe that there are any additional ethical reforms that Congress should enact? I know that stock trading, has been a big thing that a lot of folks are concerned about. What, if any, additional forms do you think should be enacted around ethics?
So that is number one. No insider stock trading. We should not be able to trade stocks. Um, Number, this is a really good question. What else can we do ethically? I believe that your family and friends, and your campaign, I think it's automatically disqualifying. Your campaign donors can't like have no bid contract, like no bid contracts, right? And so we just really got to get that money out of politics, right? There's too many kickbacks. And I believe that if you're caught, right, allowing like figure like if you're caught, if that comes up, like you need to be removed from office immediately.
Okay. Thank you for that. So now we are shifting out of ethics and campaign finance, and we're going to go over to the economy and affordability. So I know that much of your campaign has been centered around the issue of affordability. Could you speak specifically around what your vision is for strengthening our economy for working families?
Yeah, for sure. So I believe that hardworking, everyday people should shape our communities and our economies. Number one, I don't believe the billionaires and the corporations should shape our economy and our communities, and that's what's happening. Number one, when I come into office, day one, I'm really going to lean in to try to repeal the working class tax that Donald Trump put on us, and that's tariffs. Y'all, like, think about what he did in a big BS bill, because that's what it is. It's BS. He gave tax break to his wealthy friends, but he put a tax on us with these tariffs, working class families. So we need to remove those to lower our grocery costs, right? Number two, healthcare is not only a right, but it is also the medical debt leads to bankruptcy, is the leading cause of bankruptcy. We need to reform our Affordable Care Act, right? We need to extend, first, we need to extend the subsidies, drive down the healthcare cost premiums. Then we need to reform ACA and really make a push to Medicare for all. How do we pay for this? We close corporate tax loopholes. We make billionaires pay their fair share. Did you know that 88 companies paid over $105 billion, made over $105 billion last year, and they paid absolutely nothing in federal taxes? I'm over here. I'm on a payment plan with the IRS. Like, I made nowhere near $105 billion. And so those are a few things that we need to do.
So I want to give you more latitude on that because the next question sort of tied into what you've already addressed. So I'm going to extend some time for you to continue to answer on that question if there's anything additional you'd like to say.
Yeah, so what I would say is, also, I feel that I got five kids, y'all, 18 to 5. Child care is a major issue. So we need to push towards universal child care. And how would that help? It would allow our children to start school on time, and it would also free up parents to be able to go into the workforce. I've been talking to hundreds of parents across the state, and many of them have to stay at home because the cost of childcare is the same cost of a mortgage. And so that is crazy. There's a workforce shortage right now. And so we need more people in the workforce. Let's bring about universal childcare. And all of these things would actually save the government money.
Mhm. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Okay, so I want to now ask a question in reference to the national debt. The United States has grown in national debt. We know that is in part to tax breaks for the ultra rich. But I want to know what is your plan to ensure that we reduce the national debt while also maintaining critical investments for public needs.
For sure. So thank you for this question. I just did research. I mean, I'm continually doing research for this seat, just learning more information and things like that. Um, it is, I don't know if y'all know, but the Pentagon and the Department of Defense, they have failed each and every audit. Like, they have failed another audit recently. And so we need to reassess their budget. Also, especially because I mean, I'm trying to figure out how they have this big budget, but our veterans aren't getting the health care that they need. They aren't getting the resources that they need. They're literally servicemen and women. Their families are on SNAP benefits. So clear, like, our budget is a moral document, and we got to figure out like what our values are. Like, our budget is a moral document, and it shows what our values are, and our values should be the people. And right now, our values are defense contracts and things like that. Also, again, closing these corporate tax loopholes and taxing these billionaires. That's what needs to happen.
Mhm. Okay, thank you for that. Now we have a question in reference to artificial intelligence. And we're gonna have two questions in this. We'll have one later in the environmental section. But artificial intelligence is expected to reshape the economy in ways that we probably still can't fully comprehend. How should Congress prepare workers and businesses for that inevitable transition?
I'm sorry. Can you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
Yes, sorry about that. So the question was about artificial intelligence. It is expected to reshape the economy, and we know that Congress has a role. And so, how should Congress prepare workers and businesses for that transition?
Got it. So, I believe in bringing people to the table. That's what community organizers do, and we need to bring labor workers, actual workers, to the table with some of these big tech companies and have real conversations on how we can make sure that there will be very few job loss and only just really working to try to make things more efficient, right? Um, I believe that AI does need to be regulated in regards to data centers, but also because AI can have bias. Like they can. And so there have been bias in hiring practices and things like that. At a minimum, at a minimum, workers need to know, workers need to know how AI is being used in their workplace, right? Is it doing the scheduling? Is it doing the hiring? Is it taking jobs? Like they need to know. And so those are some of the things that we could possibly look at legislation as it relates to that in regards to if companies do start using AI more in the workplace.
Okay. Thank you for that. So we're now going to shift from economy and affordability, and we're going to shift over to housing, insurance, and cost of living. You already have pretty much hit every question that we have here on that topic, but I still want to bring up a few of the questions here. And the first one that I want to talk about is the struggle around housing affordability. We saw recently that there was bipartisan legislation passed in Congress that the president refused to move on. Could you talk about, why that was a problem and what other federal actions can be taken to increase housing affordability?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely it's a problem because again, like he's going unchecked and he's doing whatever he wants to do. Like this was bipartisan legislation, and this is why we need to flip the House and flip the Senate. Because this is causing people to continue to live on the street. It's causing people to continue to couch surf and things like that. And so, in regards to housing. I am proof positive of what it's like when the government works for us and not against us. I was a single mom for 12 years. 12 years. I worked for the state of Florida. I was making $28,000, right? Um, I was able to purchase a home. Like I was working hard, had a college degree and everything. Wouldn't have been able to purchase a home if it was not for the federal government having community development block grant funding that trickle down to the state, that trickle down to the local governments that helped me with my first time with down payment assistance and closing costs. That's what happens when government does it right. We also need to look at things like rent stabilization. We are the least affordable place to stay and rent. We are 18% over the national average for rent. That is ridiculous. And it is only fueled by corporate greed. That is the only reason. So we need to put checks on these corporations and do rent stabilization.
Thank you for that. I want to now shift over to an issue that all Floridians are facing, and that is property taxes. While in the legislature, we've had special sessions on property tax. You and your colleagues have put forth various reforms on that issue. But is there anything that you think could be done at the federal level to stabilize the market and bring down costs for consumers?
I mean, first of all, we bring down costs by everything that I stated earlier, right? Like we remove the working class tax, the working families tax that Donald Trump put on us, which are the tariffs, right? That's what needs to happen, and like that's what we have to do. That is the main thing, and also like because this amendment is going to be on the ballot. Like I want to be clear, y'all. It is not a property tax cut. It is a tax shift. They're shifting that burden to other people, and also it's going to be on y'all as well because it's going to the businesses their rents are going to go up. Because their property taxes on those businesses that they're housed in are going to go up. So your grocery costs might go up, right? Your restaurant bill may go up. And renters, my gosh, renters, people who are already struggling, it's going to shift to them even more so because many of the local municipal governments and county governments are going to have to make up that some kind of way. And so this is really bad legislation. It could have been done a more people-centered, progressive way, and it's unfortunate that Brian DeSantis just wanted to have a political stunt.
Got it. Thank you for that. Okay, so now we're shifting over into healthcare. And obviously, we know that you have stated that you believe that healthcare is a fundamental right. But we had some questions around your preference. In an ideal world where you could pick, would you lean more towards universal healthcare or Medicare for all system?
So I believe we should have, Medicare for all. And we can people are saying that, oh, how is it in Canada and it's this place and it's that place? Like, we can decide what we want our Medicare for all to be like, right? I don't think that, sorry, we can decide what it looks like. I've had too many conversations with people that are rationing out their prescription drugs. I don't believe that we should be paying co-pays or having to pay for prescription drug costs. Uh, I don't believe that we should be paying any type of premiums. I believe that we could pay the doctors and the healthcare professionals good reimbursement rates that will allow them to stay in business, right? Like we can do it the way in which it needs to be done. And it'll actually be cheaper because there's too many people right now that are using the emergency room as their primary care.
Mhm.
Medicare for all would actually save this country money. And I think it's really important to highlight. And y'all, like that big BS bill has devastated our communities, particularly rural counties. Did you know that in Taylor County, they're about to lose their last pediatrician? Did you know that like there are counties there are no OBGYNs? Like this is bad.
No, that's really good, and that actually segues into my next question around reproductive health care. So you have served in the Florida legislature. You've witnessed, us shift all the way down to minimal handful of weeks in which women can access abortion care in the state of Florida. What do you think should be done at the federal level as a United States senator to improve reproductive health care?
So number one, we need to codify Roe, right? Like that needs to happen. Um, Number two, we really need to work in investing. I mean, like we need to pass Medicare for all, but we really need to work in investing as it relates to prenatal care and those type of things. Like pregnancy can be a death sentence for Black women. We are 4 times more likely to die in childbirth or related to childbirth, anything like that, and that's devastating. And a lot of it has to do with stress and the lack of access to quality health care. And so again, a budget is a moral document. We need to make sure that we are investing in healthcare options. We need to make sure that we are investing in Medicare. And so like that is and reproductive health. Like you do that by providing access to people. Right now, like I'm pissed because we should have expanded Medicaid here in the state of Florida. There's a bunch of people that are working, but they can't afford the ACA marketplace, but they make too much money to be on regular Medicaid. As a U.S. Senator, even though that is a state thing, I would use my platform to push for that. And so those are low, that's just a little bit of the low hanging fruit.
No, thank you for that, and thank you to the PBC Indivisible up in Jupiter, Florida, for that question. So now I want to shift over into immigration and civil rights, and we'll devote a little bit of time to that as we prepare to start closing and coming down towards the end of our conversation tonight. So I want to talk now about immigration. Obviously, we have seen the terror that has been unleashed on our immigrant communities here in this country under this administration. Could you talk about your take on what we have seen and offer any comprehensive immigration reforms that you think make sense that you would support?
So again, what we've seen is a grift. And what do I mean by that? It's not even mass deportation, y'all. It's mass detention. And that is because these are for-profit detention centers. These for-profit detention centers are getting no bid contracts and they are campaign donors. We saw it in Alligator Alley in the Everglades Detention Center. We saw it in Baker County. We saw it all throughout Florida. These were Donald Trump's campaign donors that were running these facilities, that were building these facilities. I believe in comprehensive and compassionate immigration reform. What does that look like? That looks like making sure that we do not spend that $170 billion, I believe, on DHS. We use it to help modernize, or we don't use it on ICE. We use it to help modernize our immigration system and help allow people to go through the courts quicker. We allow mixed status families to have a clear pathway to citizenship. We allow our DACA recipients, our dreamers, to have a clear path to citizenship. We allow TPS folks from Haiti, from Venezuela, from Syria, like we allow them to have a clear path to citizenship, and we don't send them over to countries where they face persecution.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. And we've certainly seen our fair share of terrible immigration policy here in the state of Florida with special sessions and this terrible policy of relocating people and all the and all the likes. Now we had a several questions in regards to excessive force and civil rights violations by immigration officers. We had questions from St. Pete, Seminole County, St. Petersburg, Indivisible, Jacks Riverside, as well as Tallahassee, Florida. So could you maybe speak a little bit about what should be done on that front around excessive force?
They need to go to jail.
Period. Mic drop.
There's nothing else to say. Like they need to go to jail.
Here we go.
I mean, they're murdering. Like, do y'all like they're murdering people in the streets?
Yeah.
Did y'all see? I don't know if y'all heard recently, but there was, I don't know if it was a National Guard or the State Guard just murdered a black man the other day. They are weaponizing, Donald Trump is weaponizing agencies to attack citizens because we're not loud enough. We're not pushing back enough. We want to have decorum when these people are murdering people in our communities. They are literally destroying our communities, y'all. Like, that's what we're up against. They are literally saying things like they want to make America great again. They want to return us back to the good old days. The good old days weren't good enough for all of us, y'all. They are returning us back to the worst chapters of our history. And I have sat alongside Representative Yvonne Henson for too long, and I have heard the stories from my mom and my grandmother for too long, my elders, and I am not allowing them to take us back to the worst chapters of our history, where they want to silence us and they want to push back against any dissent. I'm not going to allow it to happen without a fight.
That's right. Thank you for that. So, the LGBTQ plus community has seen several advancements over the last, 50 years in this country. But one of the communities that continues to be targeted and attacked is our transgender um, folks. Could you talk a little bit about, what is happening there and any protections that you would fight for as a United States Senator?
Yeah, for sure. So I am happy to let you all know that for the past 2 years in the state house, like I have been considered not only an ally but an accomplice to members of the LGBTQ community, particularly the trans community. Um, I have filed legislation the past 2 years. Actually, I've been a champion of them for all 6 years, but I've filed legislation the past 2 years, the Freedom to Learn Act with Senator Tracy Davis, which would allow people to use their pronouns
Yeah.
without getting in trouble at school. The students, it would also allow students not to be outed by their teachers to their parents. And look, y'all, like some of the things that is really important. I know that trans people, I think they are 4 times more likely to commit suicide. Like we got to put more mental health resources into their communities, right? We got to roll back a lot of these attacks on DEI, which are harming our communities. And we got to make sure that they have protection, housing protections. They don't. We need to make sure that they have workplace protections. They don't. And so those are some things that I would be willing to do when I become your next United States Senator.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Okay, so I want to now shift over to education. We have seen an incredible attack on education here in the state of Florida. Stop woke, the banning of books, limiting conversations around race, privilege, and oppression. Could you talk about what role you think the federal government could play in strengthening protections, especially when states like Florida continue to attack our education system?
Thank you for that question. I have been under this ridiculous administration, the Stop Woke administration, the anti DEI administration, the want to privatize everything in the state of Florida. And I learned from the best. We need to hold the purse strings
Mhm.
as United States Senator and congressional members, right? Like we need to hold the purse when we flip the House and we flip the Senate. We need to hold the purse strings and say, hey, until you
Mhm.
reform and do the right thing by our students, you're not going to get this money.
Mhm.
We saw Donald Trump do that to in Minnesota. We saw him do it in other places. We need to do it the right way for the right reasons, and that's what I would push for and advocate for. Also, I don't understand why the WWE lady is leading the Department of Education in the first place. She needs to be clotheslined right on out of there. And we need to impeach and remove Linda McMahon. Like that needs to happen, number one. And then we also need to not allow our public dollars to go towards private schools that can discriminate against us and discriminate against our kids based on their hair, based on their style of dress, based on whether or not they're a member of the LGBTQ community.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. We're gonna clothesline her right on out of there. That's a
Not
t-shirt.
not physically. I want to say that. I don't condone violence, okay?
Uh,
So I don't condone violence.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that. Okay, I know we're a little over time, but this has been a great conversation, and I want to now
yes.
shift into environment, energy, and climate. So I want to talk a little bit about how you can ensure that climate policies not only move forward, but how they protect low income and marginalized communities who are often been placed in some of the most environmentally challenging environments?
Yeah, for sure. So number one, we need to make sure um that there's not huge hiccups when it comes to like FEMA and things like that when providing relief during natural disasters. Number one, I just read the other day that like they just released funding for a hurricane that hit like 2 years ago. That's absolutely ridiculous. Number one. But in regards to like climate and things like that, we climate change is a problem, and it's because of like corporate greed, right? We gotta remove our reliance and dependence on fossil fuels. We are in the sunshine state. There's so much sunshine. We should be really pushing towards renewable energy and solar. It's so much sunshine. Not right now, it's getting dark, but it's so much sunshine, right? And even so and winds, right? um, and not providing subsidies to the big fossil fuel industries. We need to really push for the new Green Deal, create more green jobs, and do things like that. Also, like with all this development that's happening, we need to save some of the trees, y'all. If we gonna take some trees, we need to plant some trees. I came from Moncrief in Jacksonville, Florida, a low income area, predominantly Black community. A lot of these low income communities are getting hotter because they're becoming like they're putting asphalt everywhere. They're taking all the trees, and we need to like really look into that as well.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you to all of our partners who submitted questions on the environment. I'll ask one more question on environment before we move to the next topic, which is foreign policy. And we want to know,
Actually,
we need to wrap.
Genesis, we have to close. So finish this question and we'll just close it up,
Okay, I
please.
do
Mhm.
apologize for that. So the question was in regards to what concerns, if any, which we know there are, do you have around the rapid expansion of AI data centers and the impact on the energy and the water use?
Thank you for that question. I mean, I had that question like twice today. Before there needs to be a moratorium on them right now. There's not enough research. As someone who grew up on a Brownsville dump, they used to burn trash. They dumped it in an area and they built Black people's homes in Jacksonville over them. My brother was born with one kidney and with cancer. I believe that has a direct impact. And I've also had people that have called my office in regards to just like the negative impacts of these environmental issues. I'm concerned that data centers, we don't know the effects, right? Like we do know that they deplete water in the area. We do know that it creates a scarcity and that causes people's water bills to go up. They also use massive amounts of energy that causes their utility, their electrical bills to go up. Also, I watched a news story in regards to them building it, and it destroyed people's homes. There was sediment in pipes. A lady had to repipe her home. They had to then start continually bringing in water. That ain't right. These are billion-dollar companies. There's other ways that they can go about this instead of harming hardworking Floridians and hardworking Americans across our state.
Absolutely. So I know Ms. Burgess said that we need to close, but I know we want to make sure that we give you time to do your closing statement. And so prior to us doing that, I want you to answer this one question and then you can do your closing statement. When voters go and vote for you in the voting booth, what do you hope they feel after casting a ballot?
Yeah, I've never had this question. Never had this question before. Um, when voters go vote for me, and I hope you all go vote for me, and I am humbly asking your support. I hope you feel hope. I hope you feel excited. I hope you realize that you have someone that is always going to show up, even if I'm uncomfortable, even when it's hard. I hope you know and realize that I am someone that is unbought and unbossed. I hope you know and realize that I am someone that doesn't take APAC funding, and that I believe that we should not green light. I am the only candidate in this race that feels like we should not green light our allies with a blank check um, to, commit crimes against humanity and violate international law. I'm the only candidate in regards to that, and I'm particularly talking about the war overseas and unfortunately those folks in Gaza. I hope you all realize that, like, I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And I love my state. I hope you realize I love my state and I
And
love my kids. And I'm going to fight for your kids too. And I'm going to fight for Florida for all and fight for an America for all.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that, Representative Nixon. It's been a great honor to moderate this conversation with you. I'm sorry that we couldn't get to all of the questions. I didn't manage the time as best as I thought I could.
No, you did great.
But at this time, if there's anything additional you'd like to say in closing, we'll give you that, and then we'll turn it back over to Mrs. Burgess.